Hey, this is Michael, and I'm in the Veterans Park in Tbilisi. This is the whole thing of being on the 21st of June now, Monday, and dealing with some horse shit at the police station once again. But, you know, I'm just thinking more about the future. Boy, it's a beautiful evening out here, though. There's some dogs down here, family camping out over there. Not camping out, but enjoying the park. It looks like they're going to do a picnic, actually. There's the entrance, one of the entrances to the park. It's pretty nice. It reminds me of when I was in New Zealand. When I was in New Zealand, there was a couple of different tracks. One for bikes, one for like jogging, and another one for walking. It was like a 3-lane bicycle pedestrian like track around the edge of the ocean. It was actually outside of Auckland. I was thinking of Queen Street in New Zealand. So I'm doing these methylcobalamin injections. Let's just say B12. Methyl B12 is a short word for the natural form of it that I'm injecting daily. The PA Relief website, I take their concept into mind about doing it every day for at least 3 months. That 3-month cycle, every red blood cell should have changed itself. But overall, the message that I'm getting and the information from the scientific medical studies, and also seeing the medical doctors speak and some of the people with pernicious anemia, is that it's better to do the injections on a more frequent basis. The PA Relief website, they're up for the the daily injections of methyl B12, methylcobalamin, while the other scientific medical research studies I've seen, including one referenced and linked to on a medical specialist out of Florida in the United States, obviously, for nerve regeneration, they're talking about long-term, daily, high-dose. 6 months. I've seen others that are patients talk about 2 years, but basically for life. You know, the PA Relief website takes, and other pernicious anemia takes the position that you can't afford, once you've had neurological damage with this, which I have had, you can't afford to not do the frequent injections of methyl B12 or methylcobalamin, the most natural usable form of vitamin B12. So I'm feeling better with each day. There's some things that I have some questions about, like just a couple things, but I'm still learning, and also from what I feel and how each day goes and stuff like that. So I'm really optimistic overall. On another topic, on the sorcery that I've practiced and studied, mainly Kabbalistic, Western Kabbalistic magic from the year, actually would have been around 1999 into the year 2000 into present day, in terms of especially avocational magic, but also American hoodoo, as far back as I remember. The first major operation or working that I had done, because there was a situation where, on one hand, in that same situation I used Kabbalistic magic, but I don't know why, but for some reason I wanted to do the hoodoo for the other part of the situation. And it's interesting because both would have, in terms of my expectation, of course we can just call it coincidence or not, if you're a magician or a sorcerer, or maybe a witch, or one of these other kinds of, wizards, whatever word you want to use, somebody that uses magic or sorcery. And I believe there's a difference in terms of Franz Bardon's definition of what that can mean, by the way, too. His definition is quite, kind of, in a way, it's much more expansive in the direction of magic, whereas sorcery is a much more technique-oriented type of magic, whereas magic itself, or the magician, is much more expansive and vast in terms of what that means and what that's all about. So, and that's a Franz Bardon perspective, in my opinion, and that's how I see that. But American hoodoo, I was able to get a couple of books back then. I actually hid them in the drop-down ceiling of my brother's basement, and did a 13 black candle working very specific to a situation where there was an attempted abuse of power. And then I just forgot about it. The person that the operation was mainly focused against was in a forced resignation within the year, within a year of that time or so. And then, but what the astonishing thing is that years later, it was like 2018, I was with my mother in an Applebee's, and she's pointing this guy out. Her husband's pointing this guy out, and they're saying, man, his life is just a mess, and this and this and this and this has happened, and these are things because he was a public person that are on the internet. So there's no disputing, that he lost his law license, that he's, because of ethics and because of abuse of that position. And so I wasn't the only one that was, that he attempted that with. Actually, he had followed through apparently with others and had actually lost his law license because of that. So and then his driver's license. So his career at that point, and then basically had become a complete mess. And here it was, precisely 10 years later, and maybe 11 years after that, and I'm still seeing what, as a sorcerer, as someone that's done American hoodoo and Haitian voodoo, by the way, a lot of Haitian voodoo, it's like, well, be careful with your workings, because what I thought would be a short-term, one-shot thing, like within a year. I'm not saying that I'm responsible for that or that the sorcerer is responsible for that. But if you're a sorcerer or a magician or a witch, you might you might take it as a warning that be careful, don't forget that the working you may do, thinking that it's a one-shot, quick fix thing for one situation, may affect the target for the rest of their life. It may just absolutely destroy them. So, and that might not even have been, that wasn't the aim necessarily of that operation. So the operation's very specific to basically rendering it impossible for that person to abuse their power against you again. In the way, in the specific operation that it wasn't meant to completely destroy their life. But I will say that it just so happens that that person could never abuse power again. It's not going to be possible. Being a car salesman, I won't be going there to buy a car from him. I have no hard feelings against him. And the reason I went public with the story is because I thought, wow, if it is something like hoodoo, then if you know about it and you have the chance to, take a remedy to the situation. But when it's justified, it's not going to be a return to sender thing. And in my case, it's not even possible anyway. It's not going to be possible, especially for an amateur or even somebody that's advanced. It's not going to be possible. In fact, I'm looking at the best years of my life ahead here. In less than a month from now is when that starts. It'll build up, and there'll be gains and losses and better and better times in my life. But going forward, July 17, 2021, and I've been waiting on this date coming up since 2015 at least, maybe earlier than that. I've been aware of it for a long time as an astrologer, as a Magi astrologer. And I'm so relieved to be so close to this date, but it is July 17, 2021. Also, I'm looking at some business ideas to put into practice, to actually put into action. And I think really to do that, I'm going to have to be back in the United States and have that kind of resources that I have, that kind of freedom to actually, execute that, and able to really take advantage of that. Because, being my home country, being, the same language, and being one of the greatest countries in the past, at least, and I would imagine at present, to do business in, to do some things, and to have the freedom and the flexibility, and like I said, most importantly, also, or equally important, well, maybe not equally important, but have the resources to take advantage of the opportunity that's there. And in the Magi astrology reading I got back in 2009 from Magi Helena, this kind of echoes something from Zaitan, Purple Star astrology. It does echo it precisely, actually. And it echoes some of the reading and what's in the astrology from the Vedic as interpreted and done by, 25 generations of Vedic astrologers, father to son, passed down knowledge, rare knowledge on Vedic astrology, and it is on modeling, beautiful women, photography, erotic, all that stuff. Fashion is specifically mentioned by Pandit Parsai's reading that he gave me. In his book, it's disturbed marriages and love affairs, to be able to give advice on that. And I'm able to do that with Magi astrology, ironically, down to the day accurate or the week accurate, and on extremes in love and marriage and romantic relationships and stuff like that. So, and the ability to be able to do that is actually precisely, specifically, exactly mentioned in Pandit Parsai's book on life predictions on planetary placements in the Vedic Rashi chart and the Navamsha chart, along with that fashion business, the advice in the fashion business. And that's something that I've done as a photographer and created an entire YouTube channel on, with over 100 films on, event films mostly, but slideshows, photo slideshows on mainly fashion show events or my own fashion photography outside of fashion weeks. Mainly it's on fashion weeks, however, and then I've got playlists devoted to specific models that I have had enough content on or have done enough photo sessions with to justify making a playlist on. So that actually is manifested in terms of I'll always have access. I as a journalist, as an international freelance photographer, officially through a U.S. press course, I've got the kind of access that I can build on that also, and the experience now. In fact, that's something that I'd set up to work on this year, but because of the heavy lockdown here and the restrictions and the pandemic all together, same thing, yeah. I mentioned specifics because some places it's not as heavy as it was here in terms of restrictions. Like back in Missouri, it would have been far less restrictions, and the attitude's quite different. They've been much more easy to work with models, and in Kansas City, for example, although I don't want to be spending much time in Kansas City anymore, but I love Kansas City in terms of spending some time there. So these are areas that I've already had some experience or work in terms of creating the content and the YouTube channel and the photography and the films, and but I actually, there's a business model that I just looked at in terms of an actual operational business model and just running some of the numbers. If it could just only accomplish, let's say, a 1/10 of the possible projections, just working with it, just 1/10 of that would just actually would be quite well, would be quite good, especially now. So looking at like what areas, like what businesses are kind of essential, let's say, or that are going to survive the pandemic. Clothing, 21% of the stimulus money in the United States, according to an Entrepreneur Magazine article, was an area that the stimulus checks were spent on. 21% is clothing. So that means there's always business in the fashion business, in the clothing business. Another one is adult entertainment. That's been the truth and the fact on the internet since the internet started. But it's now so more than ever, and it's now more capable to do that by the individual, content creators or the individual models, and via various platforms now more than ever. And I've been studying that a little bit along these months too, because I'm looking at what is actually producing income in the kind of extreme situation that the world is in right now in terms of business and economy. And at the same time, keeping in mind what Vedic astrology, Magi astrology, and Purple Star astrology through Zaitan, for example, has shown me where is the best business potential with my own potential, my own skills, my own talents, what astrology shows that I could really go after and make some progress with, make some money with in terms of that. So those are some areas, and there are other areas that I haven't mentioned. The fixed stars astrology is with the fixed stars chart. There's two of them that I've looked at, Bernadette Brady being the astrologer on both, but having a partner on one. And some of that I've already worked with as well in terms of the gifts and the destinies and fates from fixed stars being there. But matching all that up together and looking at the current scenario, and because I'm looking like, okay, what can I launch in July or August, or if I go a little bit further ahead, maybe end of November or December, like that, and get going. Because where I'm at now, I feel I want to close out and go on and get back to the United States. And quite frankly, after all that I've seen and gone through here, I'm not that interested in trying a business base here. Even if I was coming back here for a short period of time, I can't see that really. Can't see that happening, if nothing else because of the pandemic itself. I'm not keen at all on travel during the pandemic, and if I do it, it's probably a one-shot thing for a long time, because I'm one of these people that don't trust that the vaccines are where they should be yet in terms of their effectiveness, especially with the number of mutations and the serious mutations that are now prevalent in the pandemic. And therefore, I don't want to take the risk of mass or public transit or travel. Now, I know they're developing some pills now, medications in the U.S. that are promising, according to some news, and also the vaccines. But again, I don't believe we're where we should be with the vaccines yet, so I'm not that as hopeful as everyone else on that yet. So anyway, until those things are better developed and proven, I'm one to want to play it more conservative. Therefore, I'm not wanting to, like hop back and forth, fly back and forth from here to there and all that kind of stuff like that. If I do it, it'd be a one-shot thing for quite a long time. That's how I view that. That's my thinking on that. I'm checking the time on the device when I do that. And so that's where I'm at with that. There's a lot of potential back home also in terms of like being able to do some sort of like maybe some kind of hobby farm, kind of homesteading type of situation. I've got, families in Missouri. I've also thought about looking at Arizona for multiple reasons, many reasons. I don't know so much about Nevada. Maybe a month or two in the summer in Colorado would be preferable if I could pull that off, right? It's quite expensive and it depends on circumstances. Some people have the freedom to do those kinds of things. It depends on where you're at in life and what your flexibility and abilities are in that kind of situation. But I love Colorado in the summer, but I wouldn't want to be there in the winter at all. Not at all. In fact, in the summer, I think that only maybe 1 or 2 months, maybe, and then I'd want to be someplace else. But I haven't spent enough time in Arizona outside of just a few days to know enough about that layout, but I'm studying about that too. And I know that some people that for various reasons are going there or have lived there that I've known or follow. And there's a multiple number of reasons why I'm looking at Arizona as one possible location to do business in or spend time in. Besides Missouri, Missouri is home for me, and there's some super lovely things about Missouri and the Missouri people. Absolutely great, but at the same time, I'm not at all wanting to live through the winters there, and the extreme. I actually don't like the extremes in summer either. I don't mind the fall and spring, but and it depends on which kind of situation comes up in business and the pursuit of that, because Missouri is quite strict and conservative, and if this modeling business, if I decide to pursue that, I'm not sure which state's going to be more conducive for that type of operation, that type of business, but it might be Nevada or Arizona or maybe even New Hampshire. I'm not sure yet. But it's so much money involved that the potential for that it actually wouldn't matter anymore, because I would, at that level of income, be able to just go home whenever the hell I wanted, and I would be able to travel however I wanted. Again, I don't prefer to fly domestically, but I don't have any problem driving at all, even if it takes, even if I take a night off, however I decide to travel, I've actually enjoyed that type of road trips across Missouri to Colorado, or even out to Arizona, or up through Nebraska into South Dakota and the Badlands, coming down into Colorado, having a hell of a time, impromptu travel into Tellurides, stayed overnight there. They have the psychedelic magic mushroom festivals there. They have Tom Cruise had a house there. It's just incredible. I'm going to keep looking at the time here because I'm getting close to the 30-minute mark. So, but Colorado, I would just spend a day or so, or 2 or 3 out in Colorado, just road trip. Sometimes I just go by myself. I so much loved it. And I mean, just drive from one place to the next, not even really have a fucking plan. Just go there and just like, oh, let's go up to this mountain, or hey, I'm gonna go. I saw painted horses out there, like they're just free painted horses, And let me check. Okay, so I'm pretty good on time still. I got like maybe 8 minutes or something after. So I'm out there, and not only the painted horses, the wild horses, but there's like eagles and elks and stuff. I mean, these elk. I've hunted deer. I've done deer hunting. My dad's a deer hunter. My brother's a deer hunter. I've been a deer hunter, and it's one thing to get a buck or even a doe, but a buck is pretty large, But you get an elk, like you wake up like I was sleeping up on the mountain in my car. I pulled over, it's late at night. I pulled over and decided to sleep until sunrise. I get up and there's this huge elk. He's bigger than the fucking car, and he's got the huge, elk like antlers or horns or whatever. It's like antlers. Incredible. They're so huge. And then the bears. That's a whole other story. And that's part of the story that I don't let I remember exactly, because that wasn't the best experience. We ended up running back down Crested Butte Mountain. So I've been out there with, I was out there with Crystal once. She wasn't the type of person to take on a trip into the mountains, by the way. Well, hell, I'm getting ready to go to the 30-minute mark. Let's see where they're at with the battery. Maybe I'm going to be okay to go another little bit on the video. But yeah, I was out there with Jason Woodall too, and that was a fun trip. He'll always remember that, I'm sure. We went out there and we kind of got smoked out with the fires down. They have a bad problem with wildfires and forest fires and raging there. And we were so excited. We had a day at the Marble Lake, I believe is what it was called. Really had a cool time, very, very cool time. And we walked up one path. It was warm and like spring and fresh pine and cedar smell. Walk up the path, and it was absolute mountaintop, granite, snow covered. We were throwing snowballs at each other, and we walked back down the mountain path and at Marble Lake, and it's just like it is right here, right now. Although it's more hot right here, right now than it was back then. There it was more spring and cooler, but that was, for me, fantastic. In a 20-minute walk, we're in spring, warm weather, and 20 minutes later, we're in absolute snow mountaintop. I think there's some girls over here taking photos or video of me, and there's some other people. There's people that know who I am. Some of these people know who I am. So anyway, I'll start the video. Wait. Oh, I'm at 24 minutes. I'm not. I thought I was at 28 minutes, so maybe I've got a few more minutes here. So anyway, yeah, actually there was a model, Natalie Models. I won't say who it is. But she was in one photo over here behind one of these trees, and then she was at East Point in 2 photos she posted last night. And I said, "Are you with an agency?" She said she's with Natalie Models. But anyway, I guess a lot of people will come out here and photograph themselves, whether it's for family or friends or social media, or apparently for girls that are wanting to be with an agency or are with the agencies. I don't know. Anyway, the most beautiful trip that I had, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful trips, was through Durango, up through Durango. And I'm trying to remember if I was with Crystal. I was alone through there too. Jason and I wanted to go down there. Jason Woodall. We just couldn't make it. It was too much smoke. After we finished up at Marble Lake, it was near Vail, Colorado. It's on the way, and I think we decided then to turn on down and go south. And we just could. It was just too much smoke. That sucked because we would have had a good time. But so let's see where I'm at here. So I'm on the way down past Durango, and I can't remember if it's like 2 hours, 3 hours, but there was Pagosa Springs. Oh my God, I'd stop by. They have hot springs out there where you can just pull over in a few places in Colorado. If you're just road tripping like I was, like I just take off and go on a road trip and explore. And that's my favorite state in the whole world. That's my favorite area in the whole world. And by astrocartography map, I've got a planetary stellium of like 5 planetary lines running right through Colorado, like the moon and Neptune or Jupiter or something like this, Mercury and so on. It's like 5 lines right close together. So it's like this very heavy influential spot for me on the planet. The other one is Iceland, if you look at it like that. But it's a very special place for me, and I just love to go there and just road trip. Like we were up in the mountains one time. I've told this story where Crystal and I were like holding hands and doing the circulation of the body of light in tune with our breath. We'd visualize a ball of light energy through our body, and we would do it in tune with our breath. And this is a exercise that's in magic and yoga. And then below us was a mountain below us. We were that high, and it was just right outside of Denver, Colorado, which is the mile-high city, so it's already pretty highly elevated. And so we're sitting there holding hands, meditating, moving this visualization of this ball of light and doing the circulation of the body of light. These girls are actually dancing in front of the video. That's funny. Anyway, they're doing a video and they've set it up on the monument, the camera on their phone, I think, and they're dancing. Anyway, it's kind of funny. So the Georgian family over here is having like a picnic, really, literally. There's a lot of families out here, very, very family-oriented country. And it's a very peaceful part. There's never been one single problem I've ever had here, ever, in a couple of months I've been coming here now. Anyway, so that exercise is called the circulation of the body of light. I've talked about it before. And I was actually able to pull down energy from cosmos, which is a specialty of my Kabbalistic Angels horoscope, to be able to work with prana, energy of the breath, because you're moving this ball of light that you're visualizing in tune with your breath through your body 3 different ways. And you can do it with a partner. I naturally found out with Crystal, but I moved it down from cosmos because I think it's better to pull the energy down from like Manly P. Hall in the Freemasons book on the secret teachings of all the ages. You know, there's some quotes he has, and he talks about this like universal energy, and some people attribute that to Lucifer. I don't look at it like that at all. I look at it like there's a universal energy, the same type of energy that maybe even Tesla referred to in a sense, but prana, life force energy, you could think of it like mental or astral, or it's different ways, but a universal life energy. And the Reiki is working with it, I think, but in the circulation of body of light, and there's courses on the Reiki healing, by the way, and I've been in a Reiki circle, and that is mind-blowing. And I really actually want to take a course in Reiki and work with Reiki energy. I've got a video about this in Russia where I actually used this technique in Russia to remotely send energy to a girl that had famished and passed out at the market because she was too hungry, and she revived after that. It was quite fascinating. I was with Lena there when I did that. And it would actually move a lot of energy this way doing massage, especially with a hot oil, like with cinnamon and 2 or 3 other musky or hot spicy oils, in grapeseed oil as a base, for example, doing hot oil massage, and then moving that same universal or life energy through your hands. But it's easier and better to pull it through cosmos, like outside the body, instead of yourself, because if you use it from yourself and you're not replenished. I started the video again. So what I was talking about is moving the light energy, moving the energy of cosmos in tune with your breath. When you practice this every day for so many months as I did it for a year and a half every single day. I mean every single damn day. There is only a time in the 2 years that I did the foundational exercises of Western ritual magic practice exercises every day. There was only 2 weeks in my magical diary. I think it was actually only 12 days that I didn't practice every single day. I took it far more seriously than martial arts, and I was an amazing martial artist, quite frankly. So you can imagine I put at least twice as much effort, energy, dedication, discipline, and devotion every single day into the exercises of ritual magic, and preparing and building the aura and the concentration and the visualization and the focus and the breathing and the chakras and the tarot contemplations on the first 22 major arcana of the tarot universal Rider-Waite deck, or the universal Waite deck, and studying those meanings. And then later I even got Tony Bushby's The Secret in the Bible and did work with those 22 major arcana too, which are actually directly from the walls and halls of the temples of initiation in the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Really, really fascinating. So I had an amazing occult journey in terms of practical knowledge of the occult, and I mean more deep, to the point, like truthful knowledge about the mysteries. And I'm still learning, and I still have so much more to learn. I'm so happy about my membership in the Rosicrucians, Amorc. The Rosicrucians out of San Jose, California, and Amorc. I natalized that on a pretty fantastic, amazing astrological natalization date about little over 2 years ago. And then I have an absolutely super powerful, super amazing grand trine with the incorporation date of Amorc in America. I think that took place either in New York or St. Louis. No, I'm not sure. Maybe it's New York. But anyway, it's a grand trine with Jupiter-Pluto. If you run my CAC with that date, which is Amorc's incorporation, it's powerful, and that's incredibly rare. And the other one, and there's Mars and Pluto in there too. Yeah, Pluto and it's like amazing. If you're a Magi astrologer, you know what I'm talking about. Or anybody can look that up, planetary geometry and Magi astrology, and what that means. I'm like, what a blessing to be a part of Amorc and the Rosicrucians, because I took the date on a powerful natalization as well as having an amazingly powerful CAC with it. And I plan on doing lodge work when I get the opportunity and get back. I plan on doing lodge work with Amorc as a Rosicrucian. So I'm really, really, really very excited. Everybody's having a party. They're headed over to where these guys are biking. Anyway, they're really excited about the lodge work possibilities with Amorc, the Rosicrucians, and that grand trine that I have, and the date of natalization that I took the membership on. So, and I'm super, super, super happy about that. In fact, I attribute some of the techniques of the Radiant Healing summary, which is on Rosicrucian TV on YouTube. Grandmaster Julie Scott presented, and yeah, these girls are making more videos. I'm sure they'll be posting now to Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media they're on. But as a father with his son out here, lots of dogs. Man. These dogs are like, they're getting rowdy. They're done napping now. It's over. The napping is finished. They're ready to do something, even if it's trouble. And it's trouble. It's trouble. So what I've done is that natalization and that CAC with Amorc's powerful. But I'm really excited about the getting to try the lodge work when I get back to Missouri. That'll be in St. Louis, at least initially, right? Unless I get out to Arizona and check out and decide and set up something in Arizona with Summers in Colorado, or maybe hops over to Nevada. We'll see. Another powerful natalization I did was with Legal Shield. I took the membership initially in a Jupiter trine Pluto natal Magi astrology transit, I think that was 2011 or 2012, and I actually took on the business natalization after having an incident where it was on the street here, and I saw that they lied in the police report. They just cover shit up here, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to go into the business side of this and the membership, and that's when I set it up. And I had a Jupiter Pluto grand trine with that as well on the natalization. That's super powerful, and it's proven true. With Legal Shield, I have, and I'm not exaggerating, saved at least, I can think of right off the bat, literally $63,000. I can be a member of Legal Shield for the rest of my life, and I will not even touch that in terms of the value and the money savings on their services. These girls are just doing incredible amounts of videos, kind of dancing and playing through social media. They're having a good time. They're laughing and smiling. They're enjoying it. There's families over here. There are little groups of friends here and there. And the dogs are out laying. I guess they went back to napping. There's only 2 left. There was like 4 or 5 over here. Anyway, beautiful park. Is to talk with 7thvictory.com friend over here. He's coming out with a CD, music CD, or if he's already got the CD, I don't know, we'll see. Philip. British, American, Philip. Anyway, but on the radiant healing for AIM-work, I still do, but I got a little bit out of the habit when I started with these injections, and just before that, because, you know, the test that I got done, I was on top of it, moved as quick as possible, researching, studying, taking in as much information, vast amounts of information from medical scientific resources, patients, pernicious anemia website, PA Relief website, CDC, National Health Institutes and their studies, also British, the same, neuropsychiatric, neuropathic, and so on and so on. So I got a little bit, but over this last year, I've been pretty consistent, and I got back into being consistent with the Rosicrucian method of atoning a specific couple of techniques before sleep, and part of that's the charging of the water. And I was actually having relief from the spinal, the tingling and numbness in the spine. But see, I thought, well, that's just part of the car accident. No, I think now, after having done injections for a period of time, that it's quite possible that, and maybe even probable, that that is a symptom of the pernicious anemia. However, that said, it's always important to do medical testing and proper nutrition, exercise, and all this stuff. But I think what I was getting some relief, however, it's so powerful to say this, but it's true in my experience, from that particular thing, a year and a couple of months ago, as far back as March, when in April, when I was doing some of the live Zoom conferences with AIM-work on the Radiant Healing series with Grandmaster Julie Scott, and it was an absolute lifesaver, really, because I was pretty self-isolated during the lockdown, and so I was on with the Rosicrucians doing the Radiant Health Zoom meetings and exercises with Grandmaster Julie Scott, leading those up, and it was just a lifesaver. And I mean, it alleviated, somehow it would alleviate that numbness and tingling in the spine. And so, but I started this is a lot of magic and metaphysics here, and mysticism here, and Rosicrucianism and astrology and magic that I'm talking about today. Now, this is the truth, though, in my experience. I started toning when I was at the hospital. I mean, not the hospital, the hotel. I got my H's, not my H's, but my words mixed up there that start with H. When I was in the hotel, really nice hotel, Old Town Tatsminda, back in April, I started charging the water with the Rosicrucian style with the intention of healing fully and completely my left eye, which had been in a state of what I initially believe was brought on by digital eye strain, but was a severe case of a lot of floaters and optic neuropathy. It could suspect maybe diabetic retinopathy, but the blood glucose level back in then was not out of the range. It was not over the range. It did after my stay at Old Town Menda Hotel, because I had gourmet style breakfast every morning and to help promote their business and interest on my, social media also. It's a win-win situation when I do that. Because it's interesting content and brings more traffic to viewers. And it's interesting for the people that follow me. So, but I was eating a lot of sweets every morning, and I never do that usually, never. It's very rare, but every morning, because they had cakes, they had great jams, they had jellies, mainly jams, they had little cakes, they had little bakery goods, they had just absolutely, everything was gourmet. It was a boutique hotel, and it was amazing. And I had a Jupiter trine Earth during that time. It was one of the greatest, luckiest times of my life, and here I was with these amazing people, amazing Georgian business family, and Russian, but Georgian born and raised, but I mean here in Georgia, but Russian and Georgian, and with people from all over the world. I met and talked with and shook hands with a British pilot. He was a military pilot before his commercial work with a pilot based out of not just Britain but Dubai. He had a beautiful girlfriend he brought over here, and they went snow skiing from South Africa. So, but I started to charge the water with the intention that I wanted full and complete healing of this left eye from what I believe was brought on by digital eye strain, optic neuropathy, and what I began to suspect though was like pre-diabetes or something like that. But that just wouldn't be consistent with the blood glucose levels before my stay at Hotel Tatsmenda, because I didn't test even just but a little bit over the high level, the range, let's say, not the high level, but out of the range, just like a point or something, like maybe a point, until after that. And I think that's exactly why I was not eating the way I should. So I wouldn't necessarily, it's a rare complication with pernicious anemia, but it is 1%. It does have the complication of optic neuropathy. And so with the other neuropathies, I think that's probably what it is. So there's a good chance we'll get that more fully reversed. So, but I believe, I have to think that and hope that, what my intention in charging the water, and I started to do it 3 times a day, not just 1 time a day. And so every day at the hotel, I was on a pretty rigid schedule, not rigid schedule, but solid schedule. I mean, breakfast was at 9 or 9:30, so I was up and at it. And after that, really consistent with, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so charging water 3 times a day, using the Rosicrucian method of doing that, and with that intention, with that exact specific intention in mind. And since then, right now, it's in progress. It's in progress. Exactly what I set my intention for, it's in progress right now. I'm in the progress of healing, and as much as regeneration of my nerves that can be done, will be done. Now, it doesn't mean that it will be complete. It doesn't mean that it will be 100%, but sometimes it happens for people in this position, and sometimes it's partial. But one thing that they do say, it prevents any further symptoms from developing. So I'm pretty optimistic overall, and there's already been a vast improvement. And I'm also very thankful for the Sistema Toronto headquarters HQ, Vasilov, the instructor that put the Heal Your Eyes downloadable digital 15-minute instructional on Heal Your Eye exercises, and I've been doing those every single day. I think I've only missed 1 day. And that, if nothing else, has helped me during that time. I'm absolutely sure of that. But also, it gives me a way to gauge the improvement, because the eye floaters that were coming from the cornea appeared to come from the center, which is a sign of a specific type of neuropathy that also had affected me 3 different times through the upper and lower jaw, the same cranial nerve that can be affected also by the B12 deficiency. So that affects the exact cornea of the eye. So I really noticed a lot of improvement. So the way that I went about this is very holistic. You know, taking the ginger root fresh tea, you know, just chewing it, put it in the glass after soaking it, you know, taking in some of the ginger root fresh juice, but also then making it as a tea with the hot water going in on over that, and then drinking that. And then also the pernicious anemia relief listed diet for autoimmune system disorders. But I'm also looking at Billy Edward Albert Meyer from FIGU, F-I-G-U. I'm looking at his, the contact note from FIGU, Billy Edward Albert Meyer, on the list of foods for rheumatism. And also blood pressure. And of course, I've looked at what they said about any sweeteners, even stevia, being problematic in terms of its use leading to the possibility of cardiovascular diseases or diabetes, any of the sweeteners. So, and on the pernicious anemia relief diet, they're suggesting like don't have more than 2 or 3 servings of fruit in a day, for example, 2, right? So, but that's specifically not only for the higher potassium and folate levels that they suggest for an intense higher dose methylcobalamin B12 daily injection for at least 3 months, although for the medical scientific research studies that I've seen and also written about pernicious anemia relief, I want to go with that for the long term, for the best possible defense against further nerve regeneration, or against, you know, they don't want to fall back into that. Those are the girls there that were doing the social media videos over there. But I don't want to fall back into that risk of neuropathy, because it can be bad, it can be dangerous, it can be permanent damage. That's what I'm getting from the Pernicious Anemia Society website, the Pernicious Anemia Relief website, and from people that actually have pernicious anemia. And I'm continuing to study and watch people that have posted videos on it and that talk about it. And there's actually a day for people that have B12 deficiencies. And I don't know if it's actually pernicious anemia, but B12 deficiency is on September 19th. And that's about exactly when, damn near when the peak of my last second loop of Cinderella Magi astrology transit of Chiron applying parallel to the sun. It's interesting timing, isn't it? If you're an astrologer and understand that Magi astrology. So what I've done is taken note of what I did with the Rosicrucian technique and charging the water. This is an ancient technique, and I was telling family and friends about it and emailing people that had interest in mysticism or metaphysics or these types of, you know, like yoga, these types of techniques. But charging the water is actually, to me, it's more mysticism, it's more metaphysical, and it's a Rosicrucian technique. And in fact, it's also mentioned in David Griffin's work. He's a Rosicrucian. He's also a great magician. The Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Golden Dawn magic is the style of magic that I trained myself in for 2 years. That's where I did the practice of the circulation of the body of light every single day. Donald Michael Craig's book is based on the magic of the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So that gives you an idea. It's Kabbalistic, okay? So I trained in Kabbalistic magic for 2 full years, and the exercises of that development, magical exercises every single day. So, I'm very pleased with the Rosicrucianism. I'm very, very pleased with AIM work. I started that charging of the water every day with that intention, that the full, complete, permanent healing and protection and rapid of my left eye would take place in a time where I wasn't exactly sure what the problem was, but it had lasted around either mid-December or mid-January all the way until today, but it's immensely better. And I got some immediate relief when I started taking sublingual B12 immediately after learning from my mother on the phone around May 8th or so that my grandfather had pernicious anemia. That's the first time I ever knew that. And I started in with sublingual B12 and then got the order in for the methylcobamol and B12 in here soon after that visit to the hematologist. And the intrinsic factor test, the result. So I had two different sources of injectable B12 coming in after that by order, but it took one just a week to get here. It took the other about 2.5 weeks. They got here within the same day, approximately. So then I started the injections. And then it was even better improvement. So I keep working with the Systema Heal Your Eyes downloadable digital the 15 minutes of eye exercises that Systema Toronto headquarters instructor teaches on that. I've done them every single day since I got the download. About maybe a week or two after I got the download, I think I started working with that. I'd have to go back and look exactly, but I'm very impressed with the whole holistic approach that I've taken. But I have to really say that I really started to put that intention in with the charging of the water and that technique from the Rosicrucians, from Amorc and the Rosicrucian Digest, and from Grandmaster Julie Scott on the Radiant Health series and the Radiant Health Summary. And that's on YouTube. Not only that, their Rosicrucian TV on YouTube, but it's also on the Amorc Rosicrucian out of San Jose, California on their website. But like I was beginning to say, it's David Griffin, and also Rosicrucian. He's some level of Rosicrucianism, I think, but his Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, in one of his publications, him and Leslie, they've got the mention of the charging of the water. So it's a technique that Hermeticists and that Rosicrucians have used for presumably thousands of years. So I'm very deeply blessed and impressed with Amorc and with Grandmaster Julie Scott and the fellow sorors and fratres of the Rosicrucians. And thank you all so very, very much. And it's amazing to me that Grandmaster Julie Scott was from the lodge in St. Louis before she moved out to the West Coast, as I understood. And it was amazing for me to be at the park here in Tbilisi, the city park, during the heavy part of the lockdown, or right after, across the street from Radio Cafe, and to be in a Zoom meeting around that time with over 800 Rosicrucian members from around the world, and have the ability to have free speech and to share ideas and conversation right there in Zoom. It was amazing, and it's powerful. It's powerful when 800 people can get in on a Zoom meeting from around the world and a part of something as amazing and as ancient but yet modern, keeping up with modernity, as Amorc, the Rosicrucian Order out of San Jose, California. And another thing, I was really amazed at their digital online, and this is on Rosicrucian TV, I believe, on YouTube, about the museum of the Rosicrucian Order there in San Jose, California. And the end, I think it was, where they talked about they are totally energy independent. They've got solar panels on the roof of the museum, and I was so I was deeply appreciated that, because that's something I dreamed to do myself for many years there in Missouri when I was living in Missouri, and I wanted to put solar panels up and have energy independence, you know. And the roof is one way to do it, putting them on the roof. Well, Rosicrucians have done that with the Rosicrucian Museum. So that's a great example as well, and it's a great practice, and because it's something that if we all would do more things like that, our world would evolve even more quickly in so many ways, if we would just take and practice what we can and apply that to our daily lives and the way we live. Well, at least it's you know, the charging of the water and that technique out of the Rosicrucian Digest, and then the Radiant Health series and summation, their summary on Rosicrucian TV and on the Rosicrucian Digest and the Rosicrucian website, I think. Besides, Rosicrucian Digest is listed on their website. So if you have interest in that, then you can see all that there, the Rosicrucian TV. Or the Rosicrucian website, AMORC, A-M-O-R-C. So, it's a mystery upon a mystery, right? The astrology that I have, Grand Trine with the incorporation date of AMORC, the yeah, that's the CAC, the Combined Alignment Chart. That's like the partnership, right? My membership with them, and then the actual natalization date was pretty strong, pretty amazingly, exceptionally positive as well, in a couple of different ways at least, maybe more than just a couple of different ways. But I carefully also chose the natalization date, the date that I actually took a membership, because within about I looked at about a 3-month window of time. I was like, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to put it off, and it was a pretty exceptional date for natalization. I didn't have a lot of options in that near-term window. I was going to lose those options in about a 3-month, yeah, it was about a 3-month window that I looked at. And I'm like, you know what, this is a great date. It'll be another year or two before I can do something like this as far as a good natalization date, and that's true at that time. It was very true, and I'm glad I did it when I did it. So it's a wonderful thing. I as a mystic, as a magician, as an astrologer, I'm so deeply blessed. And I plan on staying with that for the rest of my life, and I'm very optimistic about that. But the lodge work I'm looking forward to doing when I get back to Missouri. I think the nearest lodge that I could do anything with here would be in England, for example. And I'm just not planning on spending any time in England on this time around. I'm checking the time on the device, and you can see the dogs that are asleep there too. So that's what I'm after. Apparently it's all the young kids that know who I am. I guess they're probably into YouTube, internet, or Facebook or whatever, because when the younger guys and girls both, I think it's because of internet, because there's some guys who are looking like, I don't know how old they were, maybe they're like 15 or something, these two guys. Unless they just look at, maybe they can tell I'm a foreigner, hell, I don't know. It doesn't matter, but it's a very family-oriented park, though. There's couples here on the benches, and there's families, and then mothers with children, and so on, friends, people. Anyway, I think I've spoke enough about all that. The Magi Society, I'm eternally thankful to the Magi Society. I can't say enough. That's my primary, every day, all the time. I'm using Magi astrology with myself and with other people, whether it's a reading or whether it's a practical application. You know, I talked about Annie Kashtaria today on Facebook. One of the reasons I was putting off meeting her was because I had a horrible Saturn-Sun transit, but I went ahead and met Matilda Gabrieliani in that because it was just, it would have not been appropriate to she was too young to put out that kind of vibe. And I don't think, even though she's obviously pretty open-minded and strong, I just wasn't going to flip that out, like shun, like I didn't even want her to have the chance to misinterpret that. Now with Annie's older model, fashion model, and in fact she's a television journalist, so I mean, I'm like, you know, she'll understand. She may not understand it, but it won't affect her, you know. It's like it won't, you know, it's a whole different situation. With the younger model, hell, I think she was only 17, maybe 16, I don't know. So I just, you know, we shook hands, that's it, and all her friends were there, and I thought, you know, but it's Saturn's Sun. It was not a good time for me to meet somebody first time new, but it was a very magical day. Very, very in the sky. And it might have been on another transit that I had, but no matter, you wouldn't want to meet somebody the first time on a Saturn Sun. Wow, I've got battery left. Let's see if I've got the memory left to make a little bit more to the end of this video. So, but with Annie Kashtaria on the astrology, it was on the like, if I looked at, like, I thought it would be nice to have a fashion house start just on her. Call it the fashion house of Annie Kashtaria, like the brand. because my God, I've got the videos, you know, and the photos, and she's a professional fashion model. I mean, there's been a lot of brands that have already had her model exclusively, like just sets of clothing, even French and Spanish, and she's modeled in Italy, and Akaya Limi was the first mind-blowing show that I consider that a classic. Now that's from over in Kazakhstan, the designer there. Just amazing show. That was one of the first or second shows I ever filmed and photographed on Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And for me, it's a classic, and it'll always be a classic. And she is so incredibly beautiful. And so are the other models that I photographed. Some of them outside of fashion weeks, such as Anano Fativa is my favorite person in the whole universe. Marie Sinai was completely surprised at how beautiful she was to photograph in real life. It was a year later since I'd seen her, and she'd become much more beautiful, and very confident and very sensual and pretty amazing. And also but with Matilda, it was Saturn Sun, but it was a Venus Chiron in the sky, and maybe in one of our personal transits, a short-term transit, but it was in the sky, and that's very magical, and it will always be that. So there's that part of it. But as far as my connection to that, it's possibly some kind of bad luck or self-destructive. And I just Saturn Sun was that I had when in fact when all this bad stuff happened here. That's what was going on, and I went through it. And a lot of these people were going through a bad time, but I went through it, and it was my personal transit. In fact, I was still dealing with, that's what I was dealing with at the police station today, was a result of what happened 2 years ago, and it was a Saturn Sun transit. So there you go. When the same thing happened in Ukraine, it was Saturn Sun. I know that energy, I know it very well, I don't like it, and I did not want to tie that in with a first meeting with Annie. Now, like I said, I went ahead and rolled with it with Matilda because it wouldn't be appropriate. She's just springing up in her career, and it was just no way around it. I saw her, and then I called out to her because I'd already known she'd seen me first, or thought she'd seen me first, whatever it was. Anyway, it was a pleasure and a amazing thing to meet that girl, because I had put a number of photo slideshows together on her and Annie. And Matilda's exceptionally talented anyway, in my opinion, exceptionally talented. Very creative. And the creativity that she's got is in her fixed stars chart. With Annie, the CAC, the combined alignment chart, it's a kind of energy that, like, you're here today, gone tomorrow. It's like that clash, like, okay, suddenly you're together, and whether it's business, like I was talking about, like even if it was a fashion label, if it was a partnership, even if it was something even more, if that were even possible, anything. It's the kind of thing where you're together, boom, you're gone, you're out of there, you know, you're there, you're together, next day, you're across the world. You had to take a flight, something happened, you had to catch a plane, or something happens and you're no longer together, you're gone. And it's something that pushes you apart quite frequently, and sometimes it's unexpectedly. Something just comes up. I had that with Yulia, and I wouldn't want that in a close personal relationship with anybody. Screw that. So, but I really did seriously think that it would be a beautiful idea to take an offer to Annie Kashtari and say, hey, why don't we do a fashion brand just on you, and you're the name, you're the label, and it's the fashion house of Annie Kashtari, and you're the model, you're the everything, you know. And I don't know, and that's the kind of study that I'm actually already kind of looking at, hearing about, like where the money is at and how things are developing in the whole modeling business, whether it's adult modeling, erotic modeling, whether it's more, or whether it's just fashion. And I don't think Annie's the kind of person that would be into adult or erotic modeling at all, and that's not to be insinuated. Now, there's other girls that probably would be, but I wouldn't say that about Annie at all, although Annie's done a pretty hot, sultry video that she has on her own video channel on YouTube out of the few videos that she's got there. That's not my impression of her at all. My impression of her is that she's very conservative, actually. But although she's still a model and she's willing to model, but she's not that type of person I would imagine that would be into adult modeling or erotic modeling. Although that's the business model that I'm looking at But I'm not exclusively looking at that. I'm also interested in just pure fashion, and that doesn't have to be like a together thing. You know, everybody has their own interests and lines of what they consider acceptable and what they don't, and that's how I see it. Anyway, with the CAC, that's what I determined with what would be in terms of the anything. And the reason I looked is there was predictions by some psychics. I consulted to some of the best I could find, or what I thought were some of the best. And one's from India. Another one was working with the national, like with police in the United States on missing children and women, victims of human trafficking, and work with police detectives. If she could come up with psychic insight on missing people, missing children, or missing women, especially human trafficking was her passion, she would help police with her psychic abilities. So I consulted with her, and then another psychic was actually a guy, Chris. He's pretty good. And I don't remember exactly which predictions. I remember one was like, it's like you're going to be in a place where you're kind of like at this hotel, kind of like this resort, you're kind of like helping out, and you're at a crossroads, and like you're at a place where you're going to decide to go one way or the other, but that you'll end up leaving with a girl, and she couldn't quite get her name right, but she said there's something wrong with her. You know, she's very, you know, she's beautiful. You can't tell by looking at her, but there's something wrong with her physically. But she said you'll learn to get over that. You'll learn to overlook that. Like that wouldn't be something that would keep you from being together. And you'll end up leaving with that girl. And I thought, well, who would that be? Because I hadn't known a girl that has some medical or physical, whatever she called it, this problem with her health or her medicals, kind of like something wrong with her, like a defect. She said you'll end up leaving with her. And another one said that it would be, or I don't think it was the same woman, it also could be a television journalist. And back then I thought, hell no, that's not possible. I don't even know any television journalists. Well then see, there was Kate, but Kate I think only did a couple things, like a couple times she tried like a fashion TV spot and maybe like one other spot, but I don't think she did anything beyond that. And I had wondered, I say, well, Kate's not really who you would call, I mean, she called herself that on Facebook, but there really wasn't that, she hadn't done it enough to where I would say that's like what she really, what you would say full-time, like she went anywhere beyond just trying it. So, because of that prediction so many years ago, then I looked at Annie's chart because I'm like, well, hell, who else could it be? Because I don't believe in all this psychic stuff, every psychic, because some of them are more talented and accurate than others, but some of them have been extremely accurate, like I said, enough to help police solve missing children or missing women cases, missing people, missing persons cases. In fact, the instructor that I took the American Hoodoo course on recently, Conjure and Self-Defense Against the Black Arts, is actually a man that has trained with Ed Dames, a former U.S. military remote viewing instructor. They can find people, places, and things, by the way, missing people. And he's actually consulted to FBI retired agents on where to find and look for, like, missing people and missing children or something like this. So, because he is a remote viewer and a remote viewing instructor, and he's got some courses on remote viewing. He worked with Ed Dames, apparently took remote viewing from Ed Dames, a U.S. military remote viewing instructor for 15 years. And I just read that today. I didn't know it was that extensive. So I'm pretty impressed. I'm actually probably going to take those courses. I actually took a course on remote viewing just for the weekend, an introductory to it, out with that group, the PSI Squad in St. Louis with Bevy Jagers when she was still alive at her house in St. Louis. And she was a remote viewing instructor for the CIA. So I was only there for like the 3 days, and but it was pretty amazing. I tried some psychometry techniques, which is the basis for how she trained people to exercise and further train to learn to remote view. So Bevy Jagers was pretty cool. There's a whole occult story behind that. It's mind-blowing. I mean, it's absolutely, I need to make a movie. I'm so impressed with Natasha Blasik, and her husband just had his birthday, Martin Blasik. Their songs are in this movie, The Blood Pageant, that was just released in some cinemas. It's in some cinemas and playing, and it's Snoop Dogg and like 7 or 8 women that are up for winning this pageant and $1 million. And anyway, you can look it up, Blood Pageant, and Natasha Blasick, Blasick. She's on my friends list, and it's a movie where her character is actually the life coach, and she's secretly a member of a secret coven of witches. And so there's a lot of like they're using New Age and witchcraft techniques, and Snoop Dogg's a major character. And anyway, it just came out. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm so lucky to see Natasha Blasick and be friends with her on Facebook and Twitter and follow her, because she actually suggested to me that I try movie script writing, because Netflix was they need more writers, creative writers, movie writers, script writers for movies in Hollywood. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I think when I get a little further into this, get past these treatments I'm doing, it won't be too much longer. I'd say a few weeks maximum, month maximum. Then I'll be looking at getting on these kinds of things much more intensely or seriously, because this has been a temporary setback only in terms of getting tests, diagnostics, research, getting that stuff going, and getting everything in and getting going. So I mean, I'm like, that's why I told Nano's mother today in chat, I'm like, I'd like to ask her, Nano, you guys could do another photography, maybe even film session if she'll be up for it soon, but maybe it'll be more toward July or even July 17 or after July 17, like around then, because when I get past this stuff and get to where I want to be with this, then I'll be more focused and creative. It's the creative beautiful thing about the Introduction to the Spiritual Teachings out of Switzerland, Billy Edward Albert Meyer, the Introduction to the Spiritual Teachings, and then contact note number 18, understand the term creation. It's all about the creative and the creational and being creative, expressing yourself, being a creator in your life. And I think I'll be back to more of that when I'm about a few more weeks into these injections and this diet, and getting what nerves I can get regenerated over these next weeks, months. Hopefully it won't take a couple years, but to see Natasha Blasick in this new release, this movie that's in cinemas now, Blood Pageant, with Snoop Dogg, it's amazing. It's inspirational, because I've done a lot of those things myself. I've used Ouija board or witch board. I've used pendulum. I've used dowsing techniques, body dowsing techniques from the healing codes, for example. I've done a lot of these things over the years, and some of them have been very valuable. But then I find myself having left some of those things behind, because I've traveled so much or moved so much, or if you get into a relationship and your partner's not so much into that or not open to that, or they won't tolerate that, or you end up going through a bad thing which may not have anything to do with that stuff. Like, I think I went through pernicious anemia at age 30, and I was hospitalized a total of 5 months, many different times, but a total of 5 months from 2000 until 2004 in April or March. And then I started traveling overseas, and I haven't had any hospital stuff, but pernicious anemia and some of the symptoms, several of the symptoms back then, it tells me that very clearly that it could have been as early as age 30 for that to come in, and adult onset can be age 30 for that. So that's what I was, you go through something like a challenging period in life, and you think, oh, well, that must be that stuff you're doing. No. That was, there's a scientific medical reason. And, when you get into this type of occult sciences, it's always important to teach, even a priest would, for example, teach that you need to do medical tests, look at science, do the medical tests, look at science. Don't ignore that in looking at the woo-woo or the so-called supernatural, or getting into these weird cultic or even weird esoteric ideas. Don't forget about reality. And it's, if you lose touch with reality, you're gone. It'll take you under and take you out. You need to be careful about that. So there's a lot of gifts and talents with these different things that you can do. Dream work. Dreams, that's also from the Meyer case. You know, semyaze, dreams are a medicine for you. And that's actually true not only in the real sense of like you have a dream and you get a message from the dream world, like you get a message about an impending like break into your house, and then you stop it by putting locks on your house or getting a security service like Brinks or Night Watch security cameras and a live monitoring system, or, you know, whatever it is that you can preempt a message warning from your dream. It can be from your own subconscious, your own intuition. Some people believe your ancestors that have passed on, your family, can communicate with you through a dream, for example. So whatever the method or the actual explanation, the fact is that dreams can be a medicine for you, not only in terms of your sleep, but also from that, because you can dream of the most fantastic things. It can be an expression of your deeper subconscious, but also in that dreaming, the wishful dream, which is a part of the concentration focus meditation exercise that Billy Edward Albert Meyer Segu's material has a very good exact method of doing that. The concentration focus meditation exercise is the last 15 minutes of the 30-minute, when you build up to that 30-minute daily meditation, concentration focus. The last 15 minutes is on a wishful dream. And that's supposed to be healthy and relaxing for the psyche, so that you're in a state of bliss and you're dreaming and visualizing or thinking on blissful dreaming, something you want to attract or draw in, or that makes you happy, that makes you blissful. Dream. So there's more ways than one to take in my opinion, the interpretation of Semyaze's quote, "Dreams are a medicine for you." And that's important during this time that we're dealing with in the world right now, because if people lose sight of dreaming and wishing on the positive things, and I don't say this from a position of like, hey, I'm a teacher here. I'm saying this is something that I myself have to work on, and I myself realize that, hey, I need to do more of this. I need to pull away from this lack of dreaming, you know. But I've moved through my challenges pretty quickly, quite frankly. I don't stay down very long. If something takes me down, even if it's for 6 months, if it's say it's for a year, it won't keep me down very long. Especially once I figure it out. Once I figure it out, it won't be long. It won't keep me down at long. And with all the combination of factors involved in this right now, you know, pandemic, I'm in a foreign country, and all these other things, you know, halfway across the world, not able to really get back home without risking